See that guy with the look of sheer panic on his face? That's me. If you want to see how I get myself out of this situation, you better stick around and find out. Behind me is a 1972 International 1110. Now, if you've been watching the channel, you'll know that my dad, my nephew, and we got this truck back on the road after sitting in the weeds for about a decade. We got it up and running, got it back to the shop here, and now it's this lovely piece of my dad's yard. On today's episode, we're gonna be taking this truck from yard art to running country cruiser. At least that's the plan. But here's the catch. We're gonna do it all in 24 hours. That's right, stick around and check it out. All right, we gotta get this thing fired up. Dad was just saying our makeshift fuel system has leaked everywhere, so we got no gas. And we're still running things off of the Lone Wolf here. So today's plan. This thing is leaking lightning like crazy from the ignition system. It's also leaking fuel like crazy from the fuel system. So we're gonna do an ignition system overhaul, new cap, rotor, points, coil, and wires. It's already got new spark plugs in it. We're going to retime the engine. We're going to do a carburetor rebuild. And right now, we're just running off a temporary fuel line back to a boat tank in the bed of the truck. So we're also going to plumb a hard line up and around up to the carburetor here and hopefully get the original fuel tanks hooked back up. Now that is going to be a little bit of an evaluation because I have no idea what condition those tanks are in. Once we've got the running gear fixed up, the next step for us is going to be to pound this dent out. This is the worst part of the truck by far. You got this big old whammy in the front, the bumper's bent back, the whole corner of the truck's pushed in. It's got the fender jacked up in the back here. So we're going to get that fixed. At least better. I do have a question though. If you do dent repair and there's no paint left on the fender after the dent repair, is that paintless dent repair? Is that what you guys mean by PDR? I think it is. We're gonna do PDR today. Just wait and see. Once the fender's pounded out, our next major task is gonna be to fix this floppy mess down here. Now, I've got the replacement rocker panels ordered already. They're here. We're gonna have to do a little bit of fabrication up here, cut out some rot, weld some rough brackets in and get this thing mounted back up. Now here's the thing, guys, we're not going for perfect on this one. We're just going for functional. If you look around this truck, it's extremely rough, right? Let's take a look in the bed here. Look, I can stick my fist through the bed. Come on. We're not going for perfect on this truck. This truck is gonna be a low budget, low buck build. And you might ask, why would you fix up a truck that looks like this? And I would ask, why not? Because this is gonna be fun. We're gonna have a good time. We're gonna challenge ourselves. So stick around and let's get into it. He lives. All right, let's get her warmed up. We'll get her in the shop. Oh no, I killed it. This is the pain of not having that ignition switch hooked up. Now he's got to come around, pop the hood. All right, that wasn't so bad. All right, here's our build list. Here's what we're gonna try and accomplish in 24 hours. Ignition system, we're gonna put a new set of points, new cap, rotor, coil, plug wires, and we're gonna replace that ignition switch. Fuel system, we're gonna do a carb rebuild. We're gonna try and hard line from the original tank back up to the carburetor, and at some point I'm gonna inspect the original tanks and see if they're clean enough for us to use. Otherwise, We might not get to that today. Body repair. So we got to push that front quarter panel out. I want to straighten all the trim and everything on the front of the truck, and then we're going to do kind of a hack job rocker repair. We're going to delete on the emission system. The smog pump is growling, it's angry, it needs to go, it's robbing power. So we're going to delete that. Exterior detail, we're going to do a Comet Wash. We're going to use some of Vice Grip Garage's Shine Juice, and then we're going to get the rims cleaned up and painted black. That's the plan. Lastly, if we've got time, interior detail, a seat repair. We got to repair some foam. I got a new seat cover. And we're gonna buff the dash out if I have time, and then radio and a set of speakers. All of that in 24 hours. That's the timer. That's what we're gonna attempt today. All right, Dad, you ready?
Set.
Go. The time has officially started. We got 24 hours. Let's get it. So Dad's gonna start with the emission system. We're gonna delete this smog pump. We're just going over the firing order and the plug wires, so we're gonna get all that stuff out of the way. So the first thing we're gonna do here, we figured out which plug here is the number 1 cylinder, and I'm just going to mark the distributor cap with this paint pen here. Be a little difficult to see down there, but I'm just gonna put a mark on number 1, so we know where number 1 goes. Now he can go ahead and start removing plug wires. He's gonna pull the bolts out of the pump, get the pump unbolted, and then we've got to take apart all of this evac tube setup here. So if you're an IH restoration guy, you might want to look away for this part, because we're gonna do whatever's necessary to get these things out of the heads. We've got new plugs that go in there. So he's gonna get rocking on that. And I'm gonna start on the carburetor. I'm gonna pull the carb off. We're gonna get that rebuilt.
Start coming up.
Yeah, you can pull the plugs out and the plug wires out. Boy, these are rough.
One smog pump down.
Nice. There we go. All right, baby. All right, quick little update. Dad's got the emission plugs in. We had an issue on number 2 up here. I'll bring the light in. So the issue we ran into is there's this giant alternator bracket right here, and we had to take a die grinder to the inside corner of this bracket because we couldn't get this plug actually lined up. It would come in too cocked. You can either take off the outside of the plug or take off some of this alternator bracket. It's a pretty beefy bracket. So we just went at that with a die grinder, opened it up a little bit. That might be something you run into if you're trying to do an emissions delete on these old international trucks. Everything else went fairly smooth. He had no issues getting these plugs all out and the new ones installed. This thing's very greasy. We're starting to notice it's probably got a pretty bad valve cover gasket leak on both sides. There's a lot of oil all down through here. So that's something we may want to address in the future, but we don't have the gaskets unless we run to town and get them tonight. So I'll bring you over here, quick update where I stand with the carburetor. It's in a million pieces. It actually wasn't too dirty on the inside. The problem was there's so much corrosion on the outside of this thing. I'm just trying to get it all cleaned up here. So it's in 1,000 pieces right now, but I'm gonna have that back together soon. Couple issues we ran into. This carb is seen some better days. It's probably been rebuilt a handful of times if I had to guess. A good amount of the the screw heads were stripped or starting to strip. The butterfly linkage down here is actually pretty worn out. The cam on this for the accelerator pump is pretty worn out. We're not getting a ton of range of motion out of that. The other thing on this side, the choke has been adjusted many times to the tune of the choke retainer plate here is snapped in two. All these bolt heads are stripped out. And then further, the linkage back here was epoxied together. And that came apart on me. So I think we're gonna be okay to get this thing up and running, but eventually we're probably gonna need to replace this Holley 2-barrel carb. So for now, I'm gonna get it back on the truck, get it bolted down, and Dad's working on the ignition system. He's got the new point set in the ignition, and I think he said we're about ready to check the dwell on those, right? You got it set?
I think so.
The way you want to set the points on these, there's a cam down here that opens the points up, right? And so you want to get your points at their maximum opening position. And then depending on your ignition system, you want to set what's called the dwell, or the gap between your 2 points down here. So I'm going to double check the number for this truck, but I believe it's 0.017 to 0.019 inches should be the gap you have. So you set that gap, you take something like this, which is a feeler gauge, and what you want to feel between those 2 points is just, it should go through and have just a slight amount of resistance. And that's right where we're at there with the 0.017. So I'm going to double check the spec, make sure that's right, but our points gap should be set appropriately. Dad's got a new coil over here we're getting ready to install. And then once that coil's on, we can throw the cap on. We can throw the plug wires on. We can get the carb on. I'll change out the switch inside, and we should be able to see if we can get this thing to fire back up. We did have to borrow a timing light from a neighbor here, but we're gonna eventually check the timing on this too and make sure that we've got the timing set. We did not do that when we did the revival the other night. All right, so Dad's working on matching up wires, and we were just talking about getting the wire lengths right. And what we did before we pulled these off was we numbered each wire. So this would have been number 4. And what I used to do on my derby cars, I bought the pre-made wire sets. I'd label the wires that come off the car, and I laid them out from longest to shortest. They're already labeled, so it doesn't matter what order they're in. And then you take your new set of wires and you do the same. And then you just take your longest to longest, and whichever number that is that corresponds with on the old one, that's where it goes on the new set. So Dad's gonna lay those wires out, and I'm going to try to get this ignition switch fit in the cab here. So let's take a look at what we need to do in here. I'm gonna go ahead and just disconnect the wires here. Let me match this up with our new one. Yeah, so it's basically gonna be just a like for like replacement here. All I'm gonna do is unplug all of our harness wires here, plug them directly back in, and we'll give it a test. I'm gonna use a screwdriver here to pry these apart. Before you go and do that, make sure your battery's disconnected. You don't wanna be shorting anything out in here. Just gonna pop that in there and twist that up. Pops that off just like that. Okay, we'll see if that does it. Before I test out the ignition, we need to get the carburetor hooked back up. I forgot we've got the electric fuel pump on here, so as soon as I turn the ignition on, that's gonna be sending fuel right up through the fuel lines. So we'll test that right after we get the carb hooked back up.
I'm guessing it goes like that.
Flip it around, everybody.
That away?
Yep. Looks like.
Oh, it does say front on there.
Yep.
Sorry.
That's all right.
This is the front.
That is the front. All right, you want to give the key a twist and see if it works?
Sure.
Nothing, huh? Okay. Well, then we got a problem with the exciter wire.
With the starter wire?
Yeah. Okay, I'm gonna crank it over here, up here.
Okay.
You get the ignition on? I forgot we don't have the return spring on.
A what?
I don't have the return spring hooked up.
A what?
The return springs. Let's get everything else set up first. You can shut that off. Let me go ahead and get everything else hooked back up. Shit! Shit! Yeah, popped out of gear. Ouch. I got it. Yeah, we gotta fix that. We gotta fix that first. Whew. Adrenaline. I can't believe I caught that thing. Ouch. I think I got the camera hooked up there. Oh, ouch. All right,
Okay, buddy.
Yeah. Okay. Oh, I don't know what I smoked my knee on. I can't believe I caught it. Okay, just need a minute. My adrenaline's pumping right now. Yeah, got it on camera. Well, that's going to be a good one for the reel.
Glad the door was open. The shop door.
I opened the shop door right before I started it. I'm telling you, I missed that door, missed
I bet.
the track by inches. I saw it and I ran around. That was the first thing I wanted to get to. And then, of course, I slammed the door shut. So I'm chasing it, trying to get the door open. Ouch. It was moving.
Yeah, we need to set the guy up.
Yeah, well, we need to do, it needs to be a two-man job because we got to fix that linkage too. It wants to keep popping out of,
I'll hold it in park.
popping out of gear.
You want to set the idle here?
Probably better to do it outside than in it right now.
Take a minute.
Man, I smoked my knee on something. Multiple disasters averted by the skin of my teeth. I don't know how much of that you guys are going to catch, but one thing that both of us forgot about is this truck does not like to stay in park. She does not want to stay in park. There's got to be an adjustment there. And I just rebuilt that carb and the idle was adjusted way too high. It popped into reverse. My first panic was the door was wide open. It was going to crash into the track for the garage door. I slammed the garage door shut, sprinted. I think I had to run like a 4.40 right there. That was moving like Usain Bolt to catch that truck. Get the door open, jump in, and throw it in park. I don't know how much you're going to be able to see of that, but holy moly. That was a close call. Dad got a pretty good laugh out of it too. He was feeding the cat, and he saw me sprinting, chasing the truck across the yard, so... anyways, my adrenaline's going a little high right now. So we're going to adjust the idle outside of the shop, and then when we get it back in, we're going to have to take a look at that shift linkage. On the plus side, we're not leaking fuel anymore. All right, you ready?
Yep.
I don't know. I'd have to figure out what I need to do to adjust this thing. The float's set right. There's not too many adjustments in these things.
The timing,
So,
maybe?
we can check the timing. Fires up and idle's great. It just won't take any throttle. And it's backfiring. Time check. We're 5.5 hours in, and I've already had far more excitement than I bargained for. Dad's out for a while now. He's out, got stuff going on tonight, so I'm here by myself. We did manage to get the truck back in the shop, but that shift linkage is a major issue. So I think I'm going to take a look at that, see if we can get that adjusted first. This carb is way off adjustment. It idles just fine, but I can't get hardly any throttle out of it without backfiring. So we need to check the timing, need to check the adjustment on the air idle mixture screws, see if we can get that dialed in. Also, this thing is pouring oil out of the back of the valve cover back here. So at some point, we're gonna have to address that. You can see how wet it is back there. So it's good to know that it's just a valve cover leaking, nothing major there. We can handle that, that's not a problem. The ignition switch did not work. So we plugged it back in. So clearly we've got, it may not have been the ignition switch, we just kind of assumed it was, because when we did the IH 3/4 ton revival, we had the same problem, and that switch came around eventually. So I just assumed the contacts in that switch were bad. It could be that it's wired wrong, because I just re-hooked it back up the way the other one was. Or it could be that our wire from the starter down up to the ignition is broken somewhere along the lines. That would probably be my guess. So I'm gonna have to investigate that. Where to start though? I guess I'm gonna start with the shift linkage, because I can't start this thing on my own. It'll jump out of gear, and it's just not safe, obviously, to work on that. I got super fortunate that I was able to safely catch that thing. I only smoked my head off the door. That's the only issue I had. But I think that's probably got to be addressed before I can do anything else with the engine running on my own. Otherwise, we're gonna have to jump right into doing the rocker repair or something like that. So I'm gonna crawl under the truck, see if we can get that figured out. So it's definitely the return spring in the column that's the issue, and I don't have what I need here to fix it, but I have temporarily fixed it. That ain't coming out of park. Got her zip tied right to my old vent window here. This is only temporary. I'm also gonna jack the back of the truck up and put it on jack stands as an extra precaution. I do not want a repeat of what happened earlier. I got extremely lucky that did not go incredibly worse than it was. And I know we were making light of the situation, but it is just a reminder to always work safe. I should go buy a lottery ticket right now. The fact the door wasn't ripped off, the fact we didn't explode the garage door, the fact that there was no cars parked behind us, that no one was outside, that there was literally nothing for 100 yards beyond this door is just incredible to me. I was a little bit speechless in the moment. I mean, I'm not kidding you when I said my adrenaline pumping. I had the shakes. Thankfully, everything was fine. It's safe. Safer now. So I'm gonna jack this thing up, put it on jack stands. I really wanna get the carb tuned out on this thing, which I think I need to check the timing first, because we had the whole ignition system blown apart. So I'm gonna crawl underneath the front end, get the timing mark cleaned off on these old Internationals. I've been told he said I'm off of number 8 and not off of number 1. So we'll have to find top dead center for number 8. And then we'll get an old timing light hooked up, see if we can't figure out where the timing's at on this thing. It seems like it's running super lean, which I don't quite get. I would have thought it would have been rich, if anything. But it almost seems like lean pops. So we'll see. I'll get it, get this thing jacked up, and we'll keep at it here. All right, I checked the timing. Timing's all good. I would have showed you guys that, but it's a little hard to see actually on this truck. Essentially set the number 8 cylinder, top dead center, and I checked my timing marks. It was dead nuts on 0 degrees, top dead center, on the timing mark on the crankshaft. So I went ahead, fired the truck up. It was running about 6 degrees before top dead center. I adjusted that down somewhere between 4 and 5 degrees before top dead center. What I kind of read with these old IHs is they really don't like advance at idle. So I'm getting somewhere around 4 degrees timing at idle. Now, I'm getting a really bad lean backfire on acceleration. And I was tuning things this way, that way, trying to figure things out, and I wasn't really making much of a dent. I noticed the fuel pump sounded loud, so I went and checked the fuel tank. The fuel tank was very low. Once I filled the fuel tank up, I could actually hear the pump quiet down as it built up pressure. So I, for one, wasn't getting nearly enough fuel to the carb. That did improve things, but I'm still getting a little bit of a lean backfire on hard acceleration. So I'll show you what I found here. And I thought this might be a problem, but I wasn't 100% sure when I was rebuilding the carb. If you look down here at the accelerator pump, so we're looking, it's kind of hard to see. We're looking right down here where my finger is. That's the accelerator pump right there. And what happens oftentimes when you're having lean backfire under hard acceleration is you're not getting enough pump shots. You're getting more air than you are fuel under acceleration. This is a brand new accelerator pump, so I know that's not the issue, but check this out. That should not be. So basically, before the accelerator pump even, look how far I'm moving the throttle blades before the accelerator pump even kicks in. So this thing is moving a ton before we even get there. So I'm also noticing my adjustment screw here has very little adjustment left on it. So we'll see, I may have to find a longer bolt and a different spring. But basically we've got to take the adjustment out of this and get this thing a lot closer than what it is, so that when you accelerate, that accelerator pump is pumping fuel into the carb. That's currently not happening. So we'll make that adjustment and we'll see how this thing runs. All right, 16 hours, 30 minutes left. I'm not gonna lie to you guys, falling a little bit behind with this carb issue and with the car nearly killing me. If my wife's watching, I was just being dramatic, honey. It didn't almost kill me. Yeah, we're gonna run out of adjustment in this bolt, unfortunately, so we're gonna have to figure something else out there. All right, the bolt on the left here is the bolt that came out of the carburetor. So I'm having issues finding what I need here, but I did find some longer machine screws I think we can make work. One of these two with this spring here should do it. The only thing I don't have is nylock nuts, so I got two nuts here. We're going to use one as a jam nut. We're just going to jam them down onto one another. Eventually we can replace that with a nylock. Yep, engine is still very hot. Confirmed. Okay, I actually think that's going to work. I got it in there. You can see, I don't know if you can see that, but instead of having all that slop, even right now, right where it sits, is tight on the accelerator pump. The accelerator pump does work. I can hear it squirting fuel. See, it's little stuff like this that's going to keep us from hitting our goal tonight. Okay, I think I have our problem solved here. Yeah, I'm getting full pump shot. It's returning fully. Let's give this thing a go and see what happens. It's going to be a little flooded, probably. It's going to be a little flooded. Oh yeah, that's much better. It's got a very small stumble off idle on acceleration, but it's not lean like it was. I think we can actually tune that out of it. Now, there's not a ton of adjustments on these old 2-barrel carbs. Let's see where I'm at here, because I've been all over the map. I'm gonna go out a half, out one. Yeah, I was falling flat on its face before. We're close. Oh man, that sounds so much better. We're very close. good as I can make it. Mechanically, the thing's running pretty well right now. I do know we had brakes before. We no longer have any brakes at all. I'm not worried about brakes tonight. There's going to be a reason for not doing the brakes. I know it seems like, hey, you might want to get the brakes figured out, but there is a reason. I want to make sure this thing runs, and I want to make sure it's going to have kind of the look I want before we go too far down the road with this truck, because it is rough. It's very rough. If you saw the revival video for this truck and you watched it all the way through, then you got a sneak peek of what I want to do with this truck. Really what I'm thinking, I want to slam this thing on the ground. I want it to be on air ride, a cheap DIY air ride kit. I don't want to go nuts with this thing. The body is really rotten on it. So I just want to have some cheap, good, cheap fun, something that Dad can take to a local car show or something if he wants. And I don't want to do all the brake work only to have to cut the brake lines if we end up having to cut the frame and Z the frame or do something like that. So we're going to hold off on the brakes for now. But I want to just see how far down the road we can get this thing and how good we can get it looking. And that's why we're doing this challenge tonight. The fuel system is essentially done with the exception of the fuel line. The ignition system's all lined out. All that's working great. Truck starts right up, first crank now. I'm having some issues with that accelerator pump. With how worn out everything is in that arm, that accelerator, the butterfly arm, every time I cycle it 3-4 times, it gets loose again. And I just keep moving that bolt down and down and down and down. And I'm almost out of adjustment on that long bolt I put in that's, you know, a good 1/4 inch to 1/2 inch longer than what the other one, the original one was. So ultimately, this carb is gonna have to be replaced. That's in the plans too, but that's later down the line. So for tonight, the next thing I'm gonna do here, I think I'm gonna go ahead and try and lay out that fuel line. I wanna get that done. Yeah, I wanna get the fuel line done. And while I'm down there, I'm gonna take a look at the starter wire and see if we can identify where that wire is coming from. I'm also gonna check the schematics on the switch and just make sure that it's not plugged in the wrong spot. It could be something as simple as that. I didn't mess, like I said, I just put the wiring back in the way it was previously, and it's doing the exact same thing the other one was, shockingly. So it could be a wiring issue. It could be the wire itself. Well, I'm not gonna lie to you guys. We got 14.5 hours left. I'm not tired, but man, I'm already beat up. My knee's killing me. I smoked it off the garage door when I ran to catch the truck, and it is killing me right now. So I've got this aluminum 3/8 fuel line. I'll show you a little tool that I picked up. You can pick these up off of Amazon. They're pretty cheap. They're great for fuel lines, brake lines. You got to buy them for the right appropriate size. This is specifically for a 3/8 fuel line. You basically, you run this through your straightener. See if I can get it started here, not pinch my fingers. It's a little bit of a bear to get going. But once you do, basically just run this back and forth across the line. And the straighter you can start with. See, at the beginning there I had all those kind of little sharp bends and things. But you pass this over it a few times and it straightens the line right out. These things work great on copper, the nickel copper lines, even stainless lines. I've used them at work on stainless lines and they work really good. It will mar up the aluminum if you've got like kinks and stuff in the line and you're trying to straighten it. It will mar that up a little bit. All right, I'm gonna run this down the frame rail and try and get an idea of where this is gonna land. And then we're gonna flare the ends once I figure out where I'm gonna cut it. The only thing we have to watch out for here is the exhaust manifold does run very close to the frame rail. So we want to be able to put this in a spot where it's not going to boil the fuel, because that would be a problem. And all I'm trying to do is match the contour of the frame so I can get this kind of run nice and tight up on the inside of the frame. The nice part about this aluminum tubing is it's very easy to bend. I specifically want to show you guys this tool. It's one of the best tools that I've bought recently. This is a TGR Tool Guy Republic brake line flaring tool. It comes with a 1/4, 3/16, 5/16, and 3/8 dies for fuel line, brake lines, whatever you're working on. It will do a single flare, a double flare, and I believe it will do a bubble. I'm not entirely sure. I think these just might be single and double flare. for these lines, but it makes this process so simple, guys. So I've got my 3/8 die in. I'm going to set my fuel line in, and I've got this set to OP.0. That's zero process. That's the first step. So you're going to put your dies in, your fuel line in, touching that 0P part of this die here. Tighten this down. You're going to, actually, I take that back. I jumped the gun here. Loosen that up. You're going to do the zero process, which is going to push the fuel line to the exact right length that you need it to get your flare. Then you're going to tighten your die down, just like that. Then you're going to go to, if you're doing so we're doing a 3/8 line, there's an OP1. So you go to the OP1 for 3/8. I'm going to make sure this is good and tight. We're going to crank that guy down until it won't go no more. And then we're going to turn this to OP2 for 3/8. And you crank this down the second time until it won't go any further. Release this, pull your pin, flip this up, release your die. Look at that, perfect flare on there. Okay, I'm just cutting out the old zip ties that were holding the old fuel line in. Okay, pull out our fuel line. So that's the rubber line we eliminated. So this is actually the original fuel line here. Why International would run that inside the fender well, I don't know. But in the great state of Illinois, that stuff didn't have a chance of lasting. So the only reason I didn't run a hard line all the way up to the carburetor is the hard line that's in here now from the carb down to the mechanical fuel pump is the original line, and it's still got all the fittings and everything on it. And eventually, what I would like to do is rebuild the fuel pump that's in this. There is a rebuild kit for it. It doesn't just has a diaphragm in it. It is a rebuildable pump, but that wasn't something I wanted to tackle this evening. So we're just making a permanent temporary fix for now. All right, so what I'm trying to do here is test the key switch here. Okay, I'm very confused. Oh, hey. Well, there was no troubleshooting to be done. I just must have had a loose wire or something. I'm thinking it's that. No? I don't know. That's very odd. It just started working. I got the key switch installed in here. I tried doing some troubleshooting. Literally, all I did was jiggle some wires, and now we got this. I'm going to count that as a win. So this thing took a serious whammy to the front bumper here. When it pushed the bumper back, it folded all this front quarter back. Put a big dent in here, crumpled the fender, pushed it back. All of this is pulled back. My initial thought was I was going to try and roll this bumper up and then straighten this out. Well, I can't roll this up because this fender is in the way. And the number one thing here, guys, I know this from working on my derby car days. We do not want to disassemble this. Whatever we do here, trying to push this back into shape. We want to do it all together. If we disassemble this, it's never going back together. I promise you that. This thing will spring, it'll flex, it'll get all kinds of wacky. So I think the first thing I need to do is actually try and pull this front and corner of the bumper. It's pushed back. We need to figure out how we're going to try and pull this thing back out this way. Yeah, you guys see that, right? That thing is just popping right back out. And I'm just gonna whack this a couple times. Now, as I'm smacking this, it's actually, I can see it's pulling this corner of the bumper out this way, and it's actually giving me a gap here. I actually already have a gap I can stick my finger in. So we're gonna keep going here. So what we're doing by hitting this, we've got the weight of the bumper on there, and that's actually helping drive this out as I drive this dent back down. Look at this already. We just got just this little bit of a hump there. We've made significant progress on that already. We've now got the bumper outside the fender as well. So that's good. Let's take the pressure off our jack for a second and see how much it springs back. Still got a decent spring back. But look at all this space I've already gained up here. I've already got a full finger width available up there, where all that was tight to my fingers before. The whole thing's got to come back this way though. This is where if it was daytime and I had brakes, I would wrap a chain around this and one to the tree, and I would hit reverse, and we'd see if we could pull this thing out. I guarantee you 1 or 2 pops in reverse and that thing would be back to straight. Get some more weight on it. The more we can get weight on it, the more we can potentially force that thing up, knock this dent out, and keep it from springing back quite as much. Okay. All right, guys, this is a porta power if you're not familiar. All this is a hydraulic ram. So you've got your hydraulic pump here, you got your ram here. It's a 4-ton ram. There's all kinds of attachments for it. This one has been used, abused, and beaten to death with my old derby cars. So it's in a little bit rough shape, but you see there's jaws here. These are spreaders. If you need something that you need spread open. There's a little chisel there. There's a square head. There's some rubber end covers if you're pushing on something that you care about. So all kinds of little attachments there. What we're going to do here is I'm going to put these extensions on the ram. We're going to set the foot against the front axle, and we're going to put the other end of the ram up into the quarter panel here, and we're going to start pushing this out. So we'll see what we can accomplish with that. We'll push from a couple different spots. We'll start beating on these dents here to try and push this fender back in, push the front out. That's the goal. I'll put my little end piece on there. This is not supposed to be bent like that, but that's what when you put 4 tons of leverage on something that doesn't want to bend, that's what happens. Ask me how I know. Just keep your eyes right about here as I start putting pumps in this thing. And let's see what happens here. You're always going to have spring back, so don't be afraid to really push on this thing. At this point, what I'm going to try to do, I think, I'm going to take my big hammer. I'm going to take a few whacks from the back side and try and move this front corner in here out. That way we can eventually shove this quarter back in where it needs to go. All right, I'm gonna do a release on this and we're gonna get a bunch of spring back. So it's gonna come back in place. Okay, it's actually a pretty good spot right there. We'll see what we can do here. Okay, this is actually working, guys. Oh yeah. Hey, we're breaking some metal up there, that's okay. But we're straightening things out. I'm going to, with all that tension in there right now, I'm gonna smack on this a couple times. And that helps with that tension in there. That helps when you smack on that, it helps push things along. I probably move that a good 2.5 inches out from where it was, which is exactly what we need to do. Things are creaking and moaning. That's good. Means we got pressure in there. I'm gonna get my hands out of there. All right, now I think I'm gonna give this a smack right here and see what happens. Yeah, it's creasing this. But we have pulled the whole quarter away from the door, a couple inches probably. So, at the bottom. So when we actually try and flatten this back out, if we can, get the quarter pulled back, that'll pull back that way. This is actually going a little better than I even thought it would. I wasn't sure how good we'd be able to make this. It's not going to be perfect, but what I'd like to get away from this big old flare off the side of the truck. So we are going to have some spring back. You can see. All right, now I want to maybe try and pop this out, and that'll help suck this in, this part in here, as I pop that out. Yeah, look at that, popping that thing right on out.
So we still gotta watch out for jumping into reverse.
And there's 0 brakes now.
Uh-oh.
We blew out the,
Brake line.
not the line, brake cylinder
Oh.
on the passenger side. So,
Oh, it must be working. What'd you do?
I'd love to tell you how much of a genius I am. I got in there and I was gonna start troubleshooting stuff. When I was moving leads around and I couldn't get a voltage reading anywhere, I accidentally bumped the key and the starter clicked over. So I think it was just moving the leads around, getting them, I don't know if there's corrosion on the starter lead or something, and I'm not gonna complain about it.
Nope.
What a difference from where it was to where it is now. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. Is it ever gonna be? No. But now it actually looks nice because before the bumper was down below the quarter and that quarter panel was pushed way out to the side. At least now we've kind of got things lined up. We could tweak on this a little more, but I think for the purposes of what we're trying to accomplish here, this is pretty darn good. I'm gonna move on to the rocker down here. This is a complete, uh-oh. Now the door won't open. So we're gonna have to make adjustment on our adjustment. So much for my nice door gaps. All right guys, when you're doing an adjustment like this, you wanna be really delicate because you don't want to upset the way the door closes or the body line is. So you wanna take your time and get it just right. Let's see if the door opens. Oh, this right here is what's getting us. Actually, I can see the door's kinked back, so maybe I need to pry the door out a hair. Get my body bar here. Oh, okay, here's what we're gonna do. I can see a crease here, obviously. And when I do that, I can see that and that crease back where it came from. Give ourselves a little clearance on the door. Okay, now we just got all this. I think we just need to part ways with this. That's not bad. I might be able to, let's see if we can persuade this bottom corner out just a hair more. Yeah. Farm fix. I hesitate to even show you guys this because it's so bad. So before anyone says I'm hacking this truck, look at this. That's the floor. That's the rocker. That's just old rocker just peeling away. So there's nothing left. I mean, look up here. This is the patch panel. These are the original floors. Gone. All this is gone. There's nothing. My hand's inside the cab right now. So the point being here, I'm doing a real rust repair on my Ford F-150. What we're going to be doing tonight is just trying to get this rocker back up into position somewhere in this vicinity, just to hold shape. I did buy these rockers, but now that I'm looking at this, there's not much to even do at this point, and I don't want to cut the good rockers up in order to try and fix this. So I think what I'm gonna do, I brought some sheet metal. I'm gonna try and buzz in a patch of sheet metal over here that carries over. We're gonna bring this rocker panel up and try and weld something like that up in there. And all I'm really trying to do on this truck is just improve the appearance. We're not actually fixing the rust. This is really just for fun, to see how good we can make this truck look in 24 hours. So I think, like I said, I think that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna cut a piece of sheet metal, get this thing just wedged up here, something like that. Get it either screwed in place, because I don't even know if I'll be able to weld to this, or weld some kind of patch on this, and then weld this into place, something like that. All we're trying to do is make this not look so bad, just hanging there like that. So let me get some metal cut up and see what we can come up with. surprisingly, there is something left there. Not a lot. All right, like I said earlier, this is really just for, this is just temporary. I don't want to waste the good panel until we're ready to do the actual repair. So for now, this will work. 9 hours, 32 minutes left. But we are absolutely killing it right now. We got the quarter dent mostly pounded out. We got the rocker repaired done. Repair. Dad's working on painting wheels. So that means we're down to Comet Wash, shine juice, interior detail. And I'm going to start working on that front grill assembly, trying to pound out some of those dents, straighten that up a little bit, see if we can't get it looking a little bit nice.
Over to the right a little bit. Nope. Yeah, right there.
I don't know if I'm moving it though.
Yeah, you did.
Pretty sure all the professional body shops do it this way.
Probably try to order a new one. You're moving it. That's not horrible. You got it quite a bit already.
Got our Redneck bodywork done. Dad's got the wheels painted. We're just getting a before shot here before we do the Comet Wash. We're gonna see how this comes out. I'm interested to see. There's some good paint right here. That's pretty much it. Bed's so rough, I don't think you're gonna get it completely smooth, but it should help quite a bit.
I bet it helped already.
Yeah. Oh yeah. So it took, you can see it took all this rust staining out, and it's just leaving the spots behind.
Yep.
It's gonna look kind of cool.
I'm actually getting into the paint a little bit.
Yeah, it is. The paint's very thin, so we'll have to be careful not to take too much off of it.
That'll do wonders on the chrome.
Yeah, on the trim. You think it'll fill those rust holes at the bottom?
Should took them off.
They're kind of cool though. So we're gonna use the fresh pads back here on the back of the truck, down where all the rust, heavy rust is. And we're really going to break those pads in before we go up to the front quarter panels, because the front quarter panels are actually the paint is fairly nice on the top half of them. And these will scratch nice paint. So this is just something to note. You really don't want to be doing these types of Comet washes on anything that you like the paint on. This is really more for patina vehicles and really heavily oxidized paint. Definitely not on clear coat either. This is all one single stage paint, so you'll just scratch the heck out of the clear coat, and it's not going to turn out the way you want it. All right, you can see all that rust just rolling right off. It definitely brightens this paint up quite a bit. It actually brings the paint out quite a bit, what's left of it.
I ain't gonna do much more for that, am I?
No, I mean, this stuff's all so rough in here. You could spend a little more time on it if you want, but that's not really, I mean, that's all rust through the paint completely, so.
Chrome looks good.
Yeah. All right, so I'm gonna put you guys up on a tripod here so we can both attack this, and we'll come back when the truck's been washed. Here's the other thing we discovered. The toolbox appears to be paint matched to the truck. There's quite a bit of surface rust on it, but we got through it and it definitely looks like it's paint matched to this truck. What a cool little discovery that was. That's pretty neat. We're down to the interior now. So we're making progress. A little time check on you. It's you can see that over there. 6 hours, 30 minutes left to get the interior done. I think we might pull it off. The dash, we got a little dash latch issue there. We got to fix that up. Ooh, Tanya Tucker collection. What else we got in here? The Judds and Tanya Tucker. I wish that cassette deck worked. That'd be pretty slick. Farmer was a smoker. All kinds of cigarette smoke there on the dash. We're going to replace the radio. Going to try and replace the speakers, see if we can make that happen. May not get to that today. We got a big seat repair to do, and we're just going to clean this thing up, detail it up. All right, as you can see, we got the dash tore apart here to get to the radio out. They had this giant strap strapped through the dash around to the back. Actually, I'll show you right here. This like anti-theft dash, anti-theft strap bolted to the back of this thing. I could not figure out how to get this thing out. We ended up having to take this panel off and cutting that strap. This guy was super protective of his Tanya Tucker collection. So we got that out now. Also made a nice discovery. This seat does not fold down or slide forward. And when we pulled the dash apart and saw that the radio had all these speaker wires connected, and I know there's only the original speaker in the dash, we hooked these up. We did a little test run with our little $18 Amazon stereo here, and there are 4 boxes behind the seat. There's 4 speakers back there. I don't know what they are, we can't see them, but they all work and they all sound pretty darn good. So we're gonna nix the dash radio and we're just gonna run those 4 speakers. So I'm at a point now where I just need to do the wiring, clean that up, run it through the dash. Dad's cleaning up the original dash panel out there because it's all rusty. We're gonna clean that up, get that spiffed up, and then we should be able to get the radio back in, and then we'll get to fixing the seat.
Ervaring.
4.5 hours left. It is 6 a.m. Let's cross off where we're at here. Radio speakers done. Off the dash, that's done. Comet Wash, paint wheels done. Guys, we're down to two items: seat repair and shine juice. I think we're gonna do it with time to spare even. I don't know if this was a good idea or a bad idea. I'm having a lot of fun, but I'm very tired. It's 6 a.m. I've been up since 6:30 yesterday, so that's almost 24 hours here.
3:30 for me.
Dad was up at 3:30 a.m. yesterday, so he's toughing it out more than me right now. The seat, somebody's tried to repair this once already. You can see, by the way, this is square cut already. I don't know, there's a lot we can do here, but we'll do the best we can. And then we're gonna throw a saddle blanket seat cover over the top of this. So what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna take a hacksaw blade and I'm just gonna try and work this back and forth and make a nice flat square area to replace here. And then we'll start cutting our foam into shape to fill into the gaps here. And then again, we'll shave it down with a hacksaw blade and we'll get everything glued up. And that's about the best we can do. All right, so normally, I think what I would normally like to do is get all of the rod out of here, but I don't have enough foam to do that today. So we're just gonna do the best we can here. I'm gonna cut a piece of foam that fits into this section we've kind of got leveled off as best we can here, and then we'll probably vacuum this out. There's a bunch of mouse turds in here. So I'll cut a piece of foam. We'll spray adhesive over that foam on both sides of it, push that in, and we're gonna call that good enough for now, and then we're gonna throw the seat cover on. So this is really, this is so far gone. If we, down the line, the real fix for this would be to replace the whole seat foam, most likely, but for now, this will get us through. Be a good enough repair to get through. If you can't tell, I'm tripping over my words. The tiredness has really hit me here in the last 30 minutes. All right, I'm just going to spray this adhesive onto the two pieces that are going to be touching here. I'm going to stick those together right away. Okay, now I'm going to spray the bottom side of these. good healthy coating there. And I'm gonna spray the original foam. That's stuffed into the original seat back there. Stick all this stuff together. Okay. Now, final piece here. We're going to, let's make sure I get this in right. Goes in like that. So I'm going to spray this side of it. Do the same thing. And we're going to jam this guy in like so. That sticks pretty quickly, so work fast. And I want to get this jammed underneath the original vinyl seat cover there. I don't hate that. We'll trim a little bit off this edge here. I think you just throw the seat cover right on that. What do you think?
Yep.
I think that's gonna work just fine. Nothing too crazy there. I'm just trying to get rid of that leading edge there where this could grab and pull away from the original foam. All right, bad news, guys. I am stopping the clock with 2 hours and 7 minutes left. Really, it's unfortunate, but the reason I'm stopping the clock is because we got absolutely everything on this list done with 2 hours to go. I knew we could do it. I was a little unsure if we could do it, but we did it. I'm gonna ask Dad. Did you think we were gonna be able to do this?
Nope, didn't think so, buddy.
I called him. I said, hey, I'm thinking I want to do a 24-hour challenge. Come down to the shop. I told him everything I wanted to do. And I could tell, he never tells me no. He never wants to tell me no. But I could tell he was very apprehensive about it. But we did it. We got everything checked off the list. And now it's time for you guys to see just what we got done in the last 24 hours. And man, I'm excited to show you guys because it turned out fantastic. All right, guys, if you made it this far into the video, first of all, I appreciate you watching. I appreciate you tuning into the channel. But I'd kindly ask, if you're not subscribed and you got enjoyment out of today's video, please consider subscribing. Please consider liking. Throw a comment down below. You can email me, cody.builds.usa@gmail.com. You can find me on Instagram. I know that's not what you guys are here for, but right now, I'm going to reveal to you the fruits of our 22 hours of labor. And I just want to say a huge thank you to my dad. I'm so thankful that I get to spend time with my dad. It is Thanksgiving. I hope you guys are spending time with your families. And I'm thankful that I get to do these things. I get to film these things for you. I get to make this content. It's a lot of fun. But without any further ado, here is our newly transformed 1972 International 1110. The shine juice, incredible. Turned out so great. Dad loves it. He's gonna put it on everything. He's gonna wax his camper with it. I'm so happy with how this turned out, guys. Now, like I was saying before, we did a lot of caveman body work on this thing. We did a lot of redneck repairs. But this truck is all about having fun. It's all about doing it on the cheap, having fun, spending time with friends and family, and working on cars and reviving them, getting them back on the road. So I think mission accomplished today. We had a ton of fun in this thing, and I would love to take you guys for a test drive, but we blew out a brake wheel cylinder, and it turns out our shifter adjustment does need to happen. Now we can't even get this thing to find park. It's fully in reverse when it's in the park selection. So we know that there is a gear shifting issue. We're gonna have to tackle that. This thing needs brakes. It doesn't have brakes right now. Well, look at this interior transformation. Yes, cheap seat cover, but we got the foam put in here. It makes a huge, huge difference when you're riding in this truck. Did a detail on this thing, got our little $18 Amazon radio, and I must say, that actually looks pretty good in here. It's got a nice little retro vibe to it. We pulled this panel out. Dad Scotch-Brighted it up really good. And then I'm telling you, he went to town with the shine juice. If he ever meets Derek, they're gonna be fast friends because he shine juiced everything. The dash pad, the dash, the door cards. It all looks so good though, guys. And we did that cheap little bogus repair down there, sure. Yeah, okay, whatever. Eventually, the plan for this truck, this is going to be a budget build truck, as I said. Anything that we do to lower this truck is gonna be fabbed in-house. We're not going to buy lowering kits. I'm gonna piece together an air suspension kit as cheaply as I can. The plan is to keep this as a budget build. That is the plan. If we're gonna go that far, I don't really care about the bed as far as rust repair. But if we're gonna go that far, eventually we are gonna come in here and do a real deal cab repair. We're gonna have to put new floors and rockers in this thing. We can make that happen, not a big deal. I'm very experienced with floor and cab and rocker repair, as you guys have seen on my Ford F-150. Check out how much better this big old dent looks. Yeah, does it look like crap still? Sure. But guess what? Now it's actually got the shape of the fender. It's not all blown out to the side. It's actually a fender tucked behind the bumper. The bumper is back pushed up where it belongs. And I can't believe this. After all that hard work, we're getting rained on here. So that's where I'm gonna have to wrap it up today. We're gonna get this thing, we just got this thing cleaned up. We're gonna get it pushed back inside. And I do mean push. The thing runs actually great. We did a carb rebuild, did the full ignition system, got all that stuff fixed up. But it's not safe to drive right now. We tried even just getting it out of the shop. You guys saw what happened earlier in the episode when I was by myself. It's just not safe to drive right now, which is okay. It's a project. We'll get it safe to drive. You'll see all that on another episode of Cody Builds. So you guys know the drill. If you don't work on your projects, they will not work on themselves. Get out in the garage, get building, and I'll see you on the next episode of Cody Builds.